Okay, Janelle, very good job. Okay, looking at your work here, we got your four frames, and the first frame, it looks like you've used the same size, point size and weight, so there's really no contrasts used. There's no hierarchy in this piece other than the 1965 Shelby Cobra, and that's only because it's centered. So the first example is not asking you not to establish hierarchy. It's asking you to establish hierarchy by grouping and proximity. So figure out what's related here and try to group those together. Because right now this document has very little hierarchy other than the fact that you're drawing hierarchy right there only because it's different than the others. So try to establish some hierarchy based on only placement and proximity in that one. The second piece, you're using weight and scale. So you've got contrast by weight and scale, and you've introduced one new size and one new weight. So that's good. You know, again, though, we've got this same phenomenon as the first one. There's no hierarchy here at all. And the same thing can be said in the third. So you're not really establishing hierarchy, Janelle. Basically, what you're doing is you're establishing hierarchy in one position, and that is basically the headline. So you're establishing hierarchy there, but the rest has no hierarchy. In other words, you're telling the viewer, I want you to look here first, but then I don't care where you look second because none of these has any sort of visual precedence over the others. Okay, the same here and the same here. So basically the hierarchy in your first three examples, it would be considered to be not very strong. Okay, so in the third example, you have multiple contrasts of weight and scale. Right now, I don't see multiple contrasts in weight and scale. I see two contrasts in weight and scale. I see that's it. I don't see multiple. So here you can really start thinking about pushing. Let me show you an example like this. This is multiple scale. This is multiple contrasts in weight and scale. Okay, you're adding weight by adding a color. You're adding scale by changing the size. Okay, and the same thing down here. You've also added weight simply by the scale over here. Okay, so, and this is a typographic hierarchy, this Paul Rand study. And here you have just no hierarchy. Here you have some hierarchy based on proximity. Here you're pushing that hierarchy. Now you have hierarchy based on proximity plus a new size and new weight, or I'm sorry, new size. Here you have new size and new weight. Okay, and then here you're pushing the composition, and then finally you have basically a solid grid structure with a good typographic composition based on hierarchy. I mean, there's really no question here where the designer wants you to look first, second, third, etc. And I think this has pretty good hierarchy. The one thing I would recommend is not using center alignment. I'm trying to establish hierarchy using some other alignment, because basically center alignment would mean basically you're not paying attention to the grid. Because presumably if you're using a grid, this would be a grid line right here, okay? But the center, it would just be placed center so that it wouldn't adhere to a grid line. Take a look at the Designing with the Grid video I placed in the announcements here. You'll see what I mean. Another indication that you're not really paying attention very closely to grid is the fact that this margin here is a little different. It's wider than this margin here. Okay, so again, that would be a broken grid. And then this margin here, oh, that looks like it could be a little... this margin here is definitely a lot wider than that margin there. So again, think about your grid usage. Take a look at that video. Other than that, I think you're doing great. Just keep on working with hierarchy. Think more about establishing hierarchy instead of just presenting information with no sort of delineation between what's important and what's not, or where you want the viewer to look after they look at the headline. Okay? Any questions or comments, give me a holler. Thank you very much.